on people focus on different skills and strategies, but they don't understand that they can have those limiting beliefs in themselves that don't let them see what is possible for them, right? Like they can see only part of reality based on those blocks.
Exactly. And so when you can take the time, and this is where I think people don't always want to do this, but we have to go look within. We have to look at some of the deeper things that are going on so that we can create awareness. Like I always say that awareness is truly like the first step in shifting mindset, is realizing like, oh, I do have this block, or oh, I don't believe I really deserve this, or those type of ideas that are really sitting at the subconscious level that we're not consciously aware of. And so if we can start to dig a little bit deeper and look at what's really happening internally, it will then manifest itself and you'll start to see things shift externally. But I think that's like the biggest gap that I see, is that people get really frustrated or beat themselves up over, but I'm doing all the things I thought I was supposed to do. I'm, making the list. I'm, getting up and setting a routine. My life is set up in a way that this should be happening, but it's not. And that's when we get to the point where we're like, well, the external is not reflective of your inner world. And so that's why I love going into the subconscious, to help people to create that awareness so you can see where those blocks really are. And then we can start releasing them from you, so that you can be free to call in that new kind of level or place that you're wanting to step into.
Yes, and what do you think about HDD? Like many people say that, oh, I have like this HDD, and doctors tell that I just cannot, like I'm not like other people, and this is how I have to accept this. And then they take different medication and get anxiety. So, what do you think about these people? Do you think that they can help themselves or get another uh, perspective, not only related to medication?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a big topic. One I'm not formally trained in, right? But from my personal viewpoint, I do believe that sometimes we can let labels limit us, and we should always allow ourselves to not let, labels or diagnosis necessarily limit us from being able to expand. We've seen so many stories about people overcoming these limitations, that they shouldn't be able to walk and they can, or they should, like all of these things that I think we think that we're limited, but we're really not. I mean, I've been diagnosed as ADHD, but I don't, how do I say this? Like, I don't publicize it as like a service. I don't like cater to ADHD, because there's so much more to your life. There's so much more robustness to what's going on, that I want to work with where you are, regardless of what kind of label has been put on you, and meet you where you are. But I mean, you and I are probably in similar viewpoints of like, a label or a diagnosis should not limit you from being able to overcome and to reach goals. You just have to have that shift in mindset. And sometimes, in order to really break some of these deeper patterns and programs, I'm a big believer of looking within, doing inner work, and really kind of looking at what's happening at the subconscious level. Because we can even talk about, I mean, this is, a science. They talk about, creating new neural pathways and ways that you can do that. Well, that's part of that, going inward, doing some more kind of work in the subconscious that allows you to create neuroplasticity, that allows you to create these new neural pathways that are physically rewiring your brain, so that these old ways of thinking don't persist anymore. And now you can sort of move forward, and your mindset moves into a totally different direction than what you might think was possible before.
Yes, and I like how Joe Dispenza says that rewiring the brain, it also helps to rewire the genes. Like before, it was believing that we cannot change the genes. Like if it
Mm-hmm.
is just all we have. But latest research, which he shared, showed that the genes can be changed, and this is very
Mm-hmm.
powerful. So how with rewiring the brain and implementing those new thoughts and new patterns, we can also influence the genes. So it means that there is the hope, right? And if people uh, if people can believe that they can overcome that, it is much more chance than if they just accept that this is just my life, this is just my fate, and this is just who I am, and I cannot do that, I cannot do that. So even this process, when they just accept that they cannot do something, it means that they cannot do something, right? Because this is like they decided not to do anything and even not to try. But if we believe that we are so powerful, and the science also is just it is not even discovered everything, right? Like for example,
Uh-huh.
the science what is now is very different from the science what was 100 years ago or 200 years ago. So it is such much more, and the human body also is not discovered constant, like totally, right? Completely. And if we just can assume that we can we can recover, we can do better. So I think that belief is so much important in that process.
Yeah, and I love that you bring up Joe Dispenza because I love his work too. And that's like, and he's testing that. Like you can go to his different retreats and there are times where he's like doing like actual testing to show these results. And that's why like I love the work that he does. And I love that you bring that up because again, you're right. Like I think it's easier to just believe that we can't. It's easier for us to just stay the same than it is for us to make a real change because making a real change requires us to like actually be different and to feel differently and to think differently. And that's like going back to Joe Dispenza again, like his meditations are so powerful because he gets you into that embodiment of it. He drops you into that more like theta brainwave state and lets you truly feel fully and embody what that, whatever you're calling in, what that healing feels like if you're suffering from cancer or if you are calling in like $1 million or whatever it may be. But that's what I love, and that's why I say like the subconscious is so important because we can say like, okay, I believe it, but internally you don't really believe it. So how do we shift that internal space? And that's why I think what Joe Dispenza does is so powerful because he bridges everything together to show you that it's not just like me saying the words, it's really that deeper level of embodiment, which is where you start engaging that subconscious. And because you're bringing sort of that energetic and physical together, that's where that DNA connection starts to come in where you can change. And I totally agree. I feel like give us another like 10, 20 years and they are definitely going to be like, "Oh, yeah, actually we can change our DNA. We can do all these things." Because I deeply believe that as well, that the DNA is not fixed and that it can be healed and changed with the proper mindset. I say this because we're not live, but between you and me, like I really think there's so much that the brain can do to shift so much in our body and in our health.
Yes, exactly. I am not a doctor, and I just want to share my concept. Like I always had some resistance against that medication. Like since
Hmm.
child, I didn't like to take pharmaceutical drugs, and what like if I could do something to get well without, I would just use natural remedies. And some people, they just conditioned to whatever happens immediately they just go to doctors, and doctors just know how to prescribe them medical medication, and all that had side effects. And this is something that doesn't heal, right? It doesn't remove the root of the problem. It just remove the symptoms. Yes, but all these symptoms, they are like signals to put attention for something, and when these signals are removed, it means that the real problem is not addressed, and it goes to chronic different diseases, right? So my question to you is how you think like if there is the situation that the person has anxiety, because I have some people now who are helping, and I would like to know your perception. Like if they have anxiety and doctors told them that they have HDAD and they have to take medication, and they have depression and anxiety, So, what is your opinion? Can hypnosis like be one of these means to help them to overcome the situation? And some of these people just get burnout, like they're bright entrepreneurs who were very ambitious, very bright people, but they tried many things that didn't work. And
Mm-hmm.
they just found themselves, they just got burnout and depressed and stressed, and now they have that anxiety. So what you would like suggest as specialist in hypnotherapy? And also what I find that people, they had those some trauma, emotional trauma in the past, and then when it didn't happen in business, that trauma just occupies a big space, and they start blaming maybe their parents because they inherited that HDD from their parents, or maybe somebody told them, and they just those past some trauma experience and emotional these traumas, they just it seems like occupying their mind, and they look more backwards instead of looking forward. And when they look forward, they just again see that, oh, I have HDD, so I can't do anything. It is just my disease, which I inherited from my parents.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Elena, I could talk to you for hours. I'm like, I love all these questions so much. This is so good. I know. And it's so interesting because this is such a great point, because I always think that there's like a spectrum of, we sort of start to realize that like maybe my issues are not just there. Maybe my anxiety is not just anxiety. Maybe it comes from something. And then, oh, of course, my parents did it. And the thing is, when you're a child, you don't have a lot of ownership over yourself. You have to go be dragged wherever, you have to show up, you have to do these things. You don't have a lot of ownership over your sort of independent self in a way, but as an adult you do. And so what you will end up ultimately finding, if you are somebody who is still in this blaming others, is ultimately we have to take radical acceptance of ourselves. And so as an adult, it's important for you to say, you know, I need to heal myself. I need to look at what's really going on. And it's not my parents' responsibility anymore to do this, it's mine. And so you take ownership over your healing, over your expansion, over your growth. And it's funny because we read so many like self-help books and personal development books, but when it comes to that sort of, oh, this is hereditary disease, or this is, you know, passed down from my parents, we don't always want to take ownership of it and say, I can heal myself, I can choose to, you know, create a life where this doesn't control me or own me anymore. But I have to look, you know, within. We're not taught as a society that going within, that there is a deeper layer that we need to look at in order for us to really be able to let go of a lot of these external, or these sort of blocks that we have that have been holding us back. And so from a hypnosis perspective, the way that I approach it is, you know, I don't do, and I was having a conversation with a mentor literally yesterday on this, and I was like, I am not one of like a clinical hypnotherapist that comes in and says, all right, you want to stop smoking, I'm going to take you through the stop smoking. I actually do a style of hypnosis that looks at your past, that looks at potentially past lives. I believe in reincarnation. You don't have to, but we can look at your younger lifetime. We can look at past lifetimes. We can even look at future lifetimes, potential lifetimes. But it allows us to take an intention. So, say you want to quit smoking, it allows us to take that through to see why you feel this connection so deeply to needing to smoke. And we create awareness around it. And we start to then look deeper into the layers. And what happens is, and it's so simple, but the awareness starts to create this unraveling effect, because you can heal a lot of things, but things that are pervasive, is like very deep, sometimes need awareness of where the root cause is. Where did it come from? You know, my old some of my old, you know, corporate side is, I'm always like, what's the root cause? How did we get here? Where do we get from it? You know, and so I even do that sometimes in my practice. But that's what we're looking at. We're trying to dig to see what's really going on. And it has been so life-changing. I have clients after one session who will message me 3 months later, and they're like, "I am still, like, getting new, like, pieces of information. Things are still, like, I just get these, like, like, aha moments just from that one session." And so there is something to be said about really being able to drop into that theta brainwave state, that getting into your subconscious, because the ego no longer is in the forefront keeping us safe. It's kind of pushed to the side. And so you can get in there, and things are a little more malleable. They're a little more easier to reach without the ego kind of being like, we're fine. We're fine. It's fine. We don't need to do anything. And really, it's not that there's anything that was wrong. It's just we just need to start healing and acknowledging some of our, deeper traumas or patterns that we've been repeating that aren't really helpful for us anymore. So that was a long-winded response, but I hope that hope that answered.
Yes, good. So, there is a hope, right? There is a hope to get it solved without even getting into that addiction of medical. Of course, maybe sometimes it is necessary. I cannot say that it can, like hypnosis or other techniques, can be everything, but I would say that maybe it is worth to try first these techniques, right? Like to
Mhm.
try hypnosis and try everything else, like whatever. And before I would do that, like before I would take this other chemical, because like
Yeah.
side effects. And if people read side effects, I would suggest them read carefully side effects, right, of different medications, and consider other ways. There are other alternative ways which can be very helpful. And I believe that hypnosis is one of them. And also um, mindset work, inner mindset work, to understand what is the cause, because we are the
Mhm.
cause, right? Like if we understand that I am the cause, not my mother, not my father, but I am the cause, and see what did I do before that brought me to results which I didn't like, and find out what are the patterns, like what
Yeah.
are habitual thoughts, right? Like patterns of thoughts, patterns of behavior. And if we get responsibility and we can understand that we can change that, and that's why everyone need mentor, somebody who can keep you accountable, because those changes that not easy. It is easy
Mhm.
to just take the pill, right, and think that, oh, I will just take medicine and everything will be fine, but it will not happen. Like whatever pills we take, we still have to work on ourselves. We have to do that inner work.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
because when you do that work, you may not need the pill anymore, because the pill is just relieving a symptom. It's not getting to the root cause. And, and the thing too, I was thinking what you were talking about earlier about taking like a pill to like solve our problems. A lot of pharmaceuticals were tested on men. Not I so if you're a woman, we have hormones that react very differently. Our bodies are very different than a man's. So even that in itself, it's probably in our best interest to look internally and do the work internally before choosing to go the pharmaceuticals route. Now, if you need it, like no judgment, if that's something you really need, you feel aligned with, then, do it. But that's something I think we don't think about, is that a lot of pharmaceuticals are created based on men's bodies, and so they don't always work effectively for women like they might for a man. So we're even like at more of a disadvantage. So like, why not try other approaches? And I'm even somebody where a lot of my clients are like, and I don't know if we want to say this publicly, but like a lot of my clients will be like, I came to you because therapy is not working and I need to try something different. Like they're just like, I have to try something different because the usual tools I'm using are not working. And that's why they end up, working with me, because they have tried so many different approaches. And I will say, but the Joe Dispenza stuff also incredibly. Do you do a lot of the Joe Dispenza work?
yeah, I love his meditations.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing too that I was thinking about with him is that, our body has an energy field. It's like a toric field. So it kind of looks like a donut. It comes out and around and like, goes all the way around us. And we are simply reacting. Our energy field is reacting to where we are at truly, what we have truly embodied. So what we receive is what our energy field can connect or repel. So if we're ready to step into that higher level, if we're ready to, call in that $1,000,000, then that means at a subconscious level, we have cleared enough blocks to be expanded enough to receive that. But it's a very simple like energy exchange. And that's what like Joe Dispenza's meditations are so great, because he is helping you shift your energy so that you are more connected and more synced up with a more expansive connection.
Yes, amazing. Energy is everything, right? We radiate energy, and our thoughts and feelings cause the actions, and actions cause results. This
Mm-hmm.
is everything comes to the thoughts, and choosing the thought, choosing people who communicate with, choosing who is in your environment, because it all affects your results in life.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, great. It was really good conversation, and we speak later again.
Okay.